Hello everyone, I thought I'd jump on and do a video. I did record some stuff at the Amex last night, but it was just too hectic post-match. There was so much going on. So I thought I'd sleep on it and dive into some of the key talking points. I mean, my videos aren't usually that long because I like to keep everything sort of short and concise, but trying to think about all the different things from last night at the Amex. A whirlwind night as Arsenal moved 7 points clear at the top of the Premier League. I don't think I've done a video since that 1-1 draw at Brentford last month. Obviously so much has changed since then, but last night was really seismic in terms of Arsenal potentially ending their 22-year wait for Premier League glory. 7 points clear now at the summit after Manchester City drew 2-2 against Nottingham Forest. They of course led twice through Antoine Semenyo and Rodri, but were pegged back through Morgan Gibbs-White's back heel and then Elliot Anderson's perler. But it was such a huge night for Arsenal because there were so many points in the game where you sort of questioned whether they had that toughness to sort of grind it out. The home fans were really on to referee Chris Kavanagh about Arsenal's timekeeping. We're going to come on to that because it's been a massive story today, really, following effectively a war of words between Fabian Hurzeler and Mikel Arteta in the post-match press conference. But the actual game itself, a really scrappy affair. I thought Arsenal were poor first half. Similar first half to the one at Brentford, although the key difference this time was that Arsenal led through Bukayo Saka's goal. So he took a deflection off Carlos Baleba before going through the body of Bart Verbruggen. I think he really should have kept that out, if we're being brutally honest. But Arsenal don't care, and that is ultimately the luck you kind of need during a Premier League title race when the pressure and the temperature really is high. But outside of that, I mean, Kai Havertz came off the bench and looked really dangerous actually, and was really clever with his link-up play when he replaced Victor Gyökeres. Had a chance to make it 2-0, which was blocked. But Arsenal had to ride their luck at times. I think Brighton put a number of balls into the box. Piero Hincapié was absolutely outstanding. I think if I was doing player ratings, I would have really seriously considered giving him a 10 because he ran through brick walls. There was so much energy up that left flank, and then he slotted in at right centre back to see the job through next to Gabriel. Gabriel made 14 clearances, I believe, which is the most any Arsenal player has made over the past 10 years in any Premier League game. So that gives you an indication of just how much defensive work there was to do, but also what a great job Gabriel did. Gabriel and Hincapié were absolutely key to victory. I think in midfield, Martin Zubimendi has run more kilometres than any Premier League player so far this season, and it's starting to tell, I think. I wrote a piece about it yesterday, but I really do feel that Christian Norgard needs to be integrated at some point. Obviously, he was signed to replace Jorginho. Zubimendi was the party replacement. But you might recall Jorginho having a few key sort of periods in Arsenal's side during various run-ins. So I think Arsenal need to kind of get that similar sort of Jorginho role out of Norgard. It's just a case of finding the right time to integrate him and to start him, because Zubimendi has started every Premier League game so far this season. Declan Rice is looking slightly tired as well. I have to say, I thought Calafiori and Trossard coming on were also really good for Arsenal in terms of seeing the game out and weathering some of that pressure and getting up the pitch, because they weren't very composed at times during the game and Brighton sort of threw the kitchen sink at them. David Raya, of course, was kind of assured, and he really did rile up the home fans in terms of time wasting. I mean, it depends how you perceive it. We're going to come on to it. I was actually sat at the top of the West Stand upper at the Amex, and Arsenal's analysts were up there as well. You had a great view of the pitch. It was right at the top of the stand, so you could see the whole pitch, and some of the Brighton fans were really giving it to the Arsenal analysts at the end of the game. One particular fan took real issue with the way that David Raya was kept going to ground. There were some words exchanged, but Arsenal's analysts didn't really bite too much into it because obviously they didn't need to, because they got the job done. So that takes me on to the press conference. Actually, there's a key point, sorry. I heard the kind of shift in the travelling support in the away end when Forest equalised at the Etihad through Elliot Anderson. I felt it gave the team a lift because the Arsenal fans broke into voice and they were very strongly singing and loud, and it kind of helped the team relieve a little bit of pressure. And then the full-time scenes were obviously quite incredible because Arsenal travelled over to the away section and were applauding the fans when a huge roar broke out about the fact the full-time whistle had gone at the Etihad, and there was a real moment of kind of, you could see Arteta whispering to Saka, and I think that was the moment that Arsenal truly now believe that they probably have enough to get over the line. I mean, it's 7 points now. It means technically Arsenal can afford to win 7 of their remaining 8 matches and lose at the Etihad against City in April. Obviously, they won't want to do that, and obviously they'll want to beat them in the Carabao Cup final as well. But it just gives them a little bit of breathing space. And you look at some of Arsenal's fixtures, they take care of business against Everton next weekend. I really do fancy them to get themselves over the line because they play the likes of Burnley at home, Fulham at home, which with all due respect, you should think they've got enough to get over the line. I think they've got Newcastle at home, West Ham away. So it's going to be interesting. But as I said, the key kind of story from the Amex when I left last night was the fact that Fabian Hurzeler came out and didn't hold back. He absolutely attacked Arsenal, accused them of gamesmanship, of running down the clock. I think he said, if I was a manager, I wouldn't want my team to play like that. Arsenal make their own rules. Really come out and sort of scrutinised Mikel Arteta's style or managerial style. So a few key quotes to bring you. One, there's that only one team tried to play football. Arteta was asked about that and he said, next question. Again, Arteta was asked about Fabian Hurzeler's claims that Arsenal make their own rules. And Arteta said, what a surprise. And he was asked to expand and he said, no, I love my players. But Hurzeler really didn't hold back. So I've done a little bit of digging really into some of the statistics from yesterday's game. Obviously, it's no secret the ball was out of play for a long time. So Arsenal took a collective 30 minutes and 51 seconds to restart play against Brighton, which is statistically their highest total in any Premier League match so far this season. Where does that rank in other Premier League games? Well, it's the 22nd longest total of any team in any Premier League match this season. So it's nothing untoward or nothing sort of really different from what we've seen so far this season. So dig a little deeper into the numbers, and Arsenal spent an average of 31.4 seconds to restart play from goal kicks, throw-ins, corners and free kicks. Though there have been 195 separate instances of other teams taking longer in a Premier League fixture this season. So again, nothing really sort of new or different from what we've already experienced so far. Hurzeler notes obviously that Brighton like to play quickly from breaks in play, and that's true because they average just 26.5 seconds per restart, and only Liverpool get the ball in play again quicker with 25.8. Arsenal's average is 30.2 seconds. Sunderland, Brentford, Leeds and Crystal Palace all take longer. And they also take the most time, an average of 44.5 seconds to set up corners. So more than any other Premier League team. I think we know that because Arsenal have such a strategic corner method where they have to get certain players in certain positions to either block the goalkeeper or make runs. But what's really interesting, and the main takeaway from this, is that Brighton have also bided their time on occasions to restart play. So they're averaging 26.5 seconds per restart in the league this season. But there are a few instances where they actually averaged more seconds per restart than Arsenal's tally last night. So just to remind you, Arsenal took 31.4 seconds on average to get the ball back in play last night. Brighton averaged 38.7 seconds against Manchester City at the Amex back in August. They averaged 33.7 seconds away at Chelsea in September, and they averaged 33.2 seconds against Brentford last month when they ran out 2-0 winners at the G-Tech. What are the key common denominators? Well, Brighton won all of those games. So basically, there are instances where Brighton are winning games where they have also slowed the game, just like Arsenal. So I think it's wrong that Fabian Hurzeler is basically trying to paint a picture that Arsenal are the main culprits of sort of running down the clock. I think it's definitely a problem that we need to eradicate from the game and look to improve. That goes without saying. I think the quality of the league in general, in terms of kind of delay in play, the wrestling we're seeing from corners, in my opinion, does need to improve. I think there's been a drop in quality in that side of things. But Arsenal are basically the best at setting up set pieces and scoring from them. And they're also just smart enough to know when to run down the clock. And also, another key stat is that they spent 45% of Premier League matches this season in the lead. So why would they rush to put the ball back in play? I think that's another important stat that we need to bear in mind when we're kind of assessing this, because if Arsenal were losing, obviously you're going to get the ball in play a lot quicker, but they've been winning. So why would they rush to, get the ball back in play when they're effectively ahead? Another key stat actually that's important contextually is that Arsenal received 12 goal kicks last night. It's the most they've had in any Premier League match all season. So obviously things do take time. I'm not for 1 minute saying that Arsenal probably didn't run down the clock, but given Hurzeler came out in his pre-match press conference and basically attacked Arsenal's sort of time wasting and strategy, I don't think really you can blame Arsenal for sort of playing on that a little bit and trying to run down the clock and frustrate the home team, particularly after scoring such an early goal. Hurzeler was trying to apply pressure to the fourth official, to referee Chris Kavanagh. The fans in the stands were getting really restless and frustrated, and I think Arsenal did play on that. But ultimately, that is what teams that grind out results and go on to win big trophies do. So I don't have any major issues with that, if I'm being honest. And as I said, there's a lot of other instances in the Premier League this season where the ball's not been in play as much as the game last night, or teams have been running down the clock more than Arsenal did against Brighton. So I think it's wrong for Fabian Hurzeler to kind of basically accuse of Arsenal of being the sole perpetrators of that. A few other nice, interesting points to bring you. Max Dowman and Marley Salmon, who of course didn't play. Dowman was on the bench back in the Arsenal squad. Cannot get changed in the main Arsenal dressing room for safeguarding reasons because they are under the age of 18. So at Brighton, there is a separate under 18 away dressing room, which is about 25 yards away from where the main Arsenal team get changed in the visiting dressing room at the Amex. But as I walked past on the way to the press conference in the mix zone, the under 18 away dressing room, there was music really pumping out of there. So Max Dowman and Marley Salmon clearly enjoying the victory, even though they didn't actually get on the pitch, or in Salmon's case, actually get in the squad. And just a couple of other bits to bring you. So Arsenal now play in 3 of the next 4 matches before Manchester City. So they play against Everton next weekend before City go to West Ham. Arsenal then play Bournemouth before City go to Chelsea, and then Arsenal and City meet at the Etihad, so obviously playing at the same time. And then beyond that, Arsenal host Newcastle before City travel to Burnley. So a real advantage there, because we've known in about a month ago, I think City were playing ahead of Arsenal, and obviously it was creating a little bit of pressure. Obviously they played at the same time on Wednesday night, but I do think that's key really, and a real major advantage for Arsenal, that they can effectively get the points on the board before City even play. So by the time City even kick a ball at West Ham next weekend, Arsenal could be 10 points clear, which again is another step sort of towards that finish line. And also they only leave London once in their final 8 matches, and that's against Manchester City. So a real kind of advantage in the sense of no travel. They're not rested. They can get some extra rest, and they're staying in their own beds as opposed to sort of staying in hotels and being on the road or in the air. City obviously go to the Bernabeu next week. Arsenal play against Bayer Leverkusen away from home. An early kickoff as well. So again, a little bit of time extra to prepare for that Everton game. And just one last line to bring you. It's from Ståle Solbakken, the Norway boss. See, Martin Odegaard missed the game against Brighton with his recurring knee injury, which he actually suffered trying to keep out Brentford's equaliser at the G-Tech last month when Keane Lewis Potter scored. You might recall I tweeted that Odegaard was limping through the mix zone after the game. He then missed the FA Cup game against Wigan and also the trip to Wolves, and then returned to play the final 13 minutes off the bench against Tottenham, but has then missed the games against Chelsea and Brighton. So for anyone who's getting a little bit concerned what might happen there, Solbakken has actually sort of eased those concerns, because he says there is nothing serious about Martin. The most important thing is that he recovers completely and is good for us in the summer. For those of us who care about the World Cup, it's not a disaster that he's getting some breaks now. He's going to rebuild and be crucial for Arsenal in April, May and maybe late March. So Norway play 2 friendlies against the Netherlands and Switzerland later this month in the international break. No indications yet from Solbakken that Odegaard won't be in the squad. But obviously, that from what he's saying there, my kind of perception of that is that maybe Odegaard won't be up to speed until late March when he returns to Arsenal. Maybe his condition needs to be managed over the next couple of weeks before that international break. Obviously, Arsenal go to Mansfield in the FA Cup on Saturday. I don't know whether Odegaard will be available or not, but from the outside looking in, that is probably a game where you could look to rest him potentially again and just let him get a bit more fitness under his belt, training in the gym or on the training pitch, even if he's ready. I mean, he might not be ready, I don't quite know. Arteta's kind of been coy on Odegaard in the past few press conferences, so we'll have to wait and see on that front. But getting really interested now, right into the business end of the season. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I'll be back again very, very soon.